Our viewers, well, it's been a while since we've had any Forza Motorsport 4. We've got a bit more now. It's the second developer diary at Hockenheim. Check this out.
Well, with Forza, we want to appeal to a wide range of customers, and people play the game for a lot of different reasons. Real-world tracks are compelling because people want to go out and drive the tracks that they see on TV, and famous race car drivers have driven from all around the world these exotic locations. Hockenheim in particular was a great opportunity for us to get a track in Germany and have some balance across Europe.
Hockenheim's a great track. It's been in DTM, it's been in lots of great sports car racing as well as other types of racing around the world. It's a really old track. It's a very high-speed track. So it had a lot of great components for us.
Hockenheim is very different from the Alps. It's in the middle of Germany, so it's one of the flattest tracks in the world. There really isn't any elevation change to the track itself. So it was just a very different experience. It's completely surrounded by trees, almost that sort of Black Forest feel, so that's something that we try to keep in mind as well.
Last year, Turn 10 Studios traveled to Germany to capture the track to bring it to life in Forza Motorsport 4.
First thing we wanted to do was drive around the track and get multiple perspectives of video for reference, and that really helps us get a good feeling for the track and help the other artists that weren't fortunate enough to come on the trip be able to get a real perspective of how things correlate to one another.
My plan was to capture every square inch of this place, from the smallest details like tire skids to spherical panoramas. Between the three of us, I would estimate that we won't be leaving this track with less than 10,000 photos.
We have many different techniques for capturing the track. One of them is that we lay down GPS splines. So we'll actually walk or drive around the track with different GPS devices so that we can accurately reproduce the topography and the camber of the track.
There's a guy that wears this military-grade GPS harness with his little antenna. It's sub-centimeter accurate on the horizontal and it's sub-foot accurate on the vertical, and he walks the edges of the tracks. The poor guy that has this has to walk the inner and outer loops of this circuit and then get the outer barrier so that we get the exact information of where the ribbon goes, where the curbing is, where the walls are, all the structures. Everything is inch perfect where this stuff exists, all the camber angles in the corners.
Generally, the process for creating a track tends to be the same for all tracks. There'll be slight differences between real-world and fictional tracks, but the first thing we say is, what is the feel for this track? What are we trying to impart to the player? When it comes to real-world tracks, we want to make them as accurate as possible. Hockenheim in particular, that comes down to the Mercedes grandstand. There's a grandstand there that's shaped like a giant C, and it dominates the entire track. It's almost like a monument to the area itself, so we've put a lot of detail into it. When you do look at it, it just has this sense of presence. When we feel this is really solid, we move on to the next stage, which is your refine phase, and we start doing our textures. So basically, everything is there and to a level that we would consider shippable, but may not have that extra level of sparkle that we want it to. And then we take it into the polish phase, which is where all the love comes in. We get in and we model all the little details, where we try and say, okay, at this point, we know a lot of people are going to hit this corner, so we're actually going to scuff this corner up a little bit so that it's got a little bit of that character to it.
For the ultimate test, we'll bring in pro race drivers, guys like Gunnar Jeanette, who've actually raced on a lot of these tracks, to give us his feedback. Because it can be inch perfect, but he can be like, you know, I use this brake marker, this rubber strip, right before the curbing on this, and then I turn, and this seems like it's happening just a little bit late, or this bump isn't quite bad enough. This upsets my car when I go in over here. So we go in there and we make sure we get all those little subtleties right as well. So when you're racing a track like Hockenheim in the game, it's going to feel and look just like it does in the real world to real drivers.
We've measured, we've filmed, and we've photographed. It's time to take all of that source material and bring it to life. Here it is in all its glory in Forza Motorsport 4, it's Hockenheim.
Hockenheim looking great there. Always a fun circuit. I've always enjoyed driving there. I enjoyed the old circuit, I often say, as much as the new one. I felt that the old one had a bit more individual character than it has now, but it's still great with that stadium section, nice cambers on the roads and stuff like that. Really nice lighting as well on Forza 4. I really do like what they're doing with it graphically. Of course, earlier this month there was the developer trip to the Alps, if you like, to design the sort of tracks there. Check this out.
Forza Motorsport's always been a series about innovation. We always want to push the racing genre, so we've made huge improvements because we want to get people excited about cars in general.
The Alps is the ultimate driving road because it's set in a beautiful location, and the ribbon has been hand-tuned over months of testing to make sure that it's just the right balance of speed, challenge, fun, in a wide variety of cars for a wide variety of players. Because we're a virtual game, nobody's going to get hurt. Since we're not concerned about driver safety, we can go to these epic places like the Bernese Alps and build basically the world's best driving roads, and we have total creative freedom.
We actually looked at 15, 30 different locales, and the Alps is just the most epic. The landscape is so surreal, it's crazy. I mean, these mountains are very different from any mountains you see anywhere else. I mean, it's just with all the jagged peaks.
We are on part 1 of a trip that will take us through Switzerland and Italy as the guys from Turn 10 gather source material and basically inspired by the entire trip.
What we're gonna do is find the most amazing areas we possibly can and photograph them to no end. We took a really long elevator ride after a train ride and a long walk and another train ride. Took a while to get up here, but oh my God, it's worth it. Did you guys see the background and everything? Yeah.
So right now we're at the Grindelwald region of Switzerland, and we're taking reference photos.
We mount a camera to a tripod on a panorama head. The panorama head enables us to take pictures in different increments and multiple exposures. We stitch them all together and then we get an HDR.
An HDR is high dynamic range image. Each frame that we do it at multiple exposure. So when you stitch it all together later, you can slide through all the different exposures. So you can go from a very dark scene with a little pinpoint where the sun is all the way up to a very exposed image. And that way it gives us the full range to play with when we go to make our sky domes later.
We have a pretty long production cycle, so it'll probably be about a year of full production once we get home.
So we bring back all of our reference, we start modeling rough landscapes that existed there so they're fairly accurate, but we're not bound to recreate it perfectly as it exists because there isn't a track there. But we want it to be believable. It needs to fit with the other real racetracks in the game. So we create a whole backstory about how the Bernese Alps came to be. It started off as a ski resort, and roads were built for workers in the wintertime, and then this rich entrepreneur bought it and tried to build a racetrack there, but it got shut down. So by creating this rich backstory, everything is there for a reason. It's believable.
Fictional tracks are a chance for us to really showcase some of the graphical tech that we have in our game.
We've redone our lighting engine, and this track in particular, with its very bright snow and blooming, really shows off what our graphics engine can do.
The television can only represent basically one order of magnitude of brightness, from 0 to 255, black to white, whereas the human eye in the real world can see, I think, 7 orders of magnitude of brightness, and in the real world there exists far beyond that. The sun is infinitely brighter than a white piece of paper, but on a television screen they look the same. Well, we found a way to basically reverse engineer that at full HD resolution on the Xbox 360. So what we do is we captured high dynamic range images of the world, and that gets baked back into the lighting and the reflections on the car, which means the sun is order of magnitudes brighter than a white piece of paper and is brighter than gray asphalt, which basically makes the cars look really grounded in the environment.
We've traveled thousands of miles, we worked thousands of hours, and here it is, the Bernese Alps track in Forza 4.
So some cool footage there. It's a hard life being a developer, isn't it? You know, travelling here, travelling there, taking photos of racetracks and driving around in sports cars to learn how they handle. I have to say, it is a hard life being a developer. But at the end of the day, as long as they make a cracking game, then that's all that matters. Of course, in Forza Motorsport 4, we have the Top Gear test track, and some of you'll be seeing some footage here. Some of you have already been seeing some of this on the early footage we got from E3, and as ever it looks absolutely fantastic. It's really coming along nicely. They did hold a press trip recently to Top Gear test track, and I wasn't invited, unfortunately, which would have been good because it would have been nice to have gone around the track in real life, at least to get you guys some feeling and some data, if you like, on bumps and gradients and those things that you just don't quite get, or that you can't pick up on as far as relation to the real track is concerned, which would have been good fun. If anyone from Turn 10 is watching this video, please do get in contact. We'd like to do a bit more with you guys on Forza at the moment. It's really hard contacting anyone at Turn 10, but we'll have some more coverage for Forza 4 coming throughout the show, hopefully, and some more hands-on impressions as well towards the end of the month. So there's lots more Forza coverage to come. But that's it for now, viewers. See you soon.